will reveal the answers to the greatest mysteries of life. In the 21st century, celebrities including Madonna and Britney Spears have taken up a modern interpretation of the practice. Yet the spread of Kabbalah has sparked controversy. Strict adherents warn that this mystical practice holds hidden perils. Throughout history, followers have coded their writings to protect Kabbalah's secrets.
How many levels of understanding are there? Maybe infinite. So the more you have to decode the past, to decode the text, the more mystical it is, the harder it is to decode.
In Babylon, at the beginning of the 6th century BCE, a young Israelite named Ezekiel has a vision. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and fire flashing forth continually. And in the midst of the fire there was a throne. Sitting on the throne was a figure that looked like a man. Ezekiel believes he has peered into heaven and seen God seated on his throne. This vision captivates a group of Jewish mystics. They hope that by studying this image, they will one day see God for themselves and become one with a divine spirit.
Jews who are seeking a mystical experience will try to reimagine what Ezekiel experienced. So it becomes the model for Jewish mystical ascent, really until the emergence of Kabbalah.
In the 2nd century CE, the Roman Empire controls what is now Israel. Jews who practice their faith openly are either killed or forced into exile. It is during this time that many Jews turn to mysticism to help them understand God's will. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is one of the men searching for answers.
Rabbi Shimon was a great advocate of the people of Israel and taught that Israel has a special intimacy with God. And he fled from the Romans who sought to execute him because of anti-Roman statements he had made.
According to Jewish texts, Bar Yochai hides from the Romans for 13 years in this cave in Pekaim, Israel. Here, Bar Yochai meditates on God and the universe, using the Torah, or Hebrew scriptures, as his guide. His unique methods and devout practice make him one of the first key figures in Kabbalah's history. Like Bar Yochai, other small groups of Jewish mystics begin trying to achieve a greater understanding of God.
Since God wasn't coming to them, they were going to where God was. So they wanted some kind of experience of the divine. They used certain meditative techniques that worked them up into an autosuggestive hypnotic trance.
Their activities are kept hidden. The mystics warn that this practice is too dangerous for average people to attempt. Ancient legends tell of novices being driven mad, or even dying because they were unprepared for the powerful spiritual forces they had unleashed.
If you're not pure enough, if you're not modest enough, then God might not accept you, then God might not let you go through that journey.
Through meditation, the mystics believe they have achieved a vision of God like the one experienced by the prophet Ezekiel. In this vision, the entrance to heaven is blocked by a series of gates. The mystics must pass through them before reaching God. The entrances are also guarded by menacing angels who keep the unworthy from heaven. Before the mystics can advance, they have to learn the complicated names of the angels. Each name must then be repeated an exact number of times.
The mystics would wear amulets that would shield them from the power of the angels. And if they went through all the gates and they got into the throne room, then they would have this vision, they would learn the secrets.
The mystics claim those secrets help them understand God's thoughts. At roughly the same time, unknown mystics recorded a startling concept into an influential book. The text is called the Book of Creation, or the Sefer Yetzirah. It describes how God made the world by using the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet.
God spoke and said, "Let there be light." So obviously God's speech was the creating agent. Well, what language did God speak? God spoke Hebrew, of course. So the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet were the alphabet of creation.
What Sefer Yetzirah does is to try to describe how God created the world in more detail than we find in Genesis. It builds on the notion that God created the world through language, but now it's not words so much as individual letters. And this is probably meant rather literally. God took the 3 letters Aleph, Bet, Nun, which spelled the word Even, stone. By combining those letters, a stone was created. And similarly with every object in the universe, God created by combining the letters with the numbers.
Rabbis believe the teaching of the Sefer Yetzirah are too powerful for ordinary people to experience, and the details of the book are kept hidden. These mystical revelations remain underground for hundreds of years. In the 11th century, the Crusades begin a new wave of anti-Jewish persecution as Christian armies try to reclaim the Holy Land from the Arabs. Fleeing from torture and execution, Jews scatter across Europe and the Middle East, taking their secret traditions into new territories. By the 13th century, the mystical teachings have spread to Jewish communities in what are now Germany, France, and Spain. The term Kabbalah, meaning receiving in Hebrew, now becomes widely used to describe the practice.
We're really talking about a small group of Jewish teachers, rabbis, spiritual people who were gathering the earlier traditions, developing techniques of meditation, and reimagining God in some very startling ways.
One of the most significant events in Kabbalah's history occurs around 1280, when a Spanish rabbi claims to discover yet another mysterious text. This will soon become the single most important book in Kabbalah. It is called the Zohar, meaning radiance or splendor in Hebrew.
It's really the masterpiece of Kabbalah. The ideas of the Zohar are very radical and very startling.
Written mainly in Aramaic, its pages are filled with arcane symbolism and erotic language. By arousal below, there is similarly arousal above. Male and female unite, desire prevails. Worlds are blessed, and above and below are in joy. To this day, the author of the Zohar remains a mystery. Many Kabbalists believe that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai received divine inspiration to write the Zohar while living in a cave during the 2nd century. Others suspect that the manuscript was written 1,000 years later, possibly by a Spanish Kabbalist or even by a group of rabbis.
It's in a way written by someone in Aramaic who didn't really know Aramaic that well. And you also strangely find words in medieval Portuguese and Spanish in the Zohar. So the question scholars have been wrestling with for a couple of hundred years now is, who wrote it and how did it come to be?
But the greatest mystery of the Zohar lies within its mystical text.
You have to work so hard to decipher it, and this is why it's so attractive, because of this beautiful game it plays with you of revealing and hiding.
Decoding these complicated passages promises a greater understanding of God and his relationship with humans.